Hi, I'm Very Human, and for this week's video, I wanted to go over how I go about making experimental vocals in Ableton Live 12. So this is what my vocals sound like. The chain that I got here is my chain that I use in just about every single production when it comes to vocals. I will show you how you can achieve this using Ableton 12's auto shifter. Here's the example again without the MIDI track. Not so nice, is it? In the past, for umbrella hat tracks, I would definitely try and hit the notes more. For this project, I can't lie, the MIDI roll is nice. It allows me to be able to basically produce the vocals after they're recorded. When I say produce, I can completely rewrite the melody for different parts of the track. It's very handy. I wouldn't say you should use it as a crutch. Admittedly, in this song, I guess I did. Now, I turned off the Waves tune, and I have Ableton's new auto shift plugin. It actually does a lot of the same things. It does exactly what I purchased Waves Tune for, which is that MIDI roll control. So to get that, I went into the plugin, I turned on MIDI, took the MIDI from the channel that I want it to, and I let it go. Trick to this vocal style is the very fast auto-tune time. You don't really want it to glide or move slowly in between notes as you sing. That can be very useful if you are doing a more live or realistic sounding vocal, but for the music I like to make, honestly, I use auto-tune as an effect. So that fast stair-stepping sound, that's exactly what I go for. The MIDI actually helps me achieve that sound even more, which is why I've moved towards doing that as opposed to a more traditional just sing it until I get the sound I want from the auto-tune. So Ableton's auto shift has a couple of cool features. You can actually pitch your vocals up. You can go up a whole octave actually. It doesn't sound the best in my opinion. The real trick to getting this style of vocals, especially if you want to get more experimental, more hyper, more pop, you can use that format. And I find this to sound actually pretty good. I'm impressed with Ableton. Boost this up just a little bit to where the format sounds right to you and let it roll. Or you can automate it, sort of for that Dorian Electra-esque automation, changing vocals over time. So let's get into it with Waves Tune. To start, I always pick my scale. From there, I make sure that my formants are corrected, so I sound natural. After that, I keep my speed and my note transition fast for that stair-stepping sound. Now for the real sauce. I haven't seen a lot of videos about how to do this in Ableton, but to get MIDI to go to your Waves tune, go down to this MIDI input/keyboard and turn on target pitch. Then go down to the MIDI layer that you wrote your notes on. Click the MIDI out. Set that over to the channel that you have your vocals on. I have it on Vox main here. And you should, underneath that, once it's selected, see that Waves tune. If that's not working, then I would delete your MIDI channel and make a new one. Try again. Ableton's auto shifter process is relatively the same. And there's actually more you can do inside of it, so I'd suggest playing around. But for this exact result, the setup is basically just click that MIDI, set it from the channel that you want it from, and voila. Play around with the speed and have fun. Last up, it might not sound exactly how you want. That's where your audio chain comes in. How do you mix it? You listen to a lot of hyperpop or even popular rap music or pop music in general. You notice that there's a lot of compression on the vocals. They're very crisp, very flat, and overall that actually makes it easier to mix. Sometimes you can get a little too much frequency wise once you start compressing down or limiting, as I'll show you here in a moment. But play around with your EQing and play around with your multiband settings. Alright, so after that first MIDI-controlled auto-tune, whether it be auto-shift or Waves tune, I have another auto-tune software called Midi-tune. I got this in the Slate bundle. I like this auto-tune a lot. It just has some nice characteristics, catches some of the stray notes that might come out of the MIDI, because I will say, MIDI to auto-tune isn't always perfect. Up next, I have some Waves plugins. First one is the comp gate, the C1. This is just an initial gate, a little bit of compression, not much to start. After that, I have the NS1 stereo. This is a noise suppressor. It's a little algorithmic toy I got from Waves. I think it was like $16 to $20. Worth every penny. I use it on just about everything that's recorded through my interface. After that, I have a little low cut, nothing crazy at this point in time. From there, we have Vitamin, Vitamin is a multi-band compressor. It's a great plugin. You can get the same results in Ableton's multi-band. Just play with the settings. The idea is sort of like making an EQ curve. You're not trying to compress or raise the volume of the bass. The highs are probably going to be, really it's up to your voice, but play around with it. Yes, limiting the vocals. This is honestly a little secret sauce. It really helps the mixing. Once you have that brick, you're mixing without worrying about those perceived peaks. It really is the volume that it says it is. You're taking down all that dynamic range, and it allows me to then do a little bit more to it. Next step is de-essing. Doesn't matter which de-esser you use. There's a ton of free ones. I'm just using what came in the Waves pack that I have. Then I have a little bit of dynamic EQ using F6, but I also have Pro Q, which I adjust more. This is a slightly older chain. I just haven't wanted to play with the settings that I've set. I have it suppressing some of the peaks in my mid-range. I also have a doubler here in case I want to get sort of a chorusy, wider sound. I keep it off for the most part, but it's here. Next is Fresh Air. This is key. It's a free plugin from Slate, better than an EQ shelf in the high end. It really does just give it air. After that, I hit it with my favorite limiter, Track Limit. You can use any limiter for this. This really just catches some of those peaks before I go into my vocal bus mix. The vocal bus mix is where I get a lot of the effects. It's where I play around and get creative with how the vocals sound after they've been made into a nice big brick for me to mix. I have here a fast delay where I've turned the sync off and I'm automating. On the repitch function, it gives me a lot of fun particles and a little bit of pitch variation as I play around with it. But mess around with the settings, specifically the formant and dry wet. Then I have the option to saturate if I want some distortion. I have a track control, comes with track limit. That's great because it's basically utility. I just can widen it out. Basically just take a look, meter, see what's going on before I get into the final stages. After that, I have this little audio effect rack where I've mapped the macros from the dry wet of my delay and reverb to just one knob. So I can turn it up all the way and it will give me just that little pinch of delay and reverb if I so choose. Normally I keep it dry for this sound. Finally, I compress just a little bit near the end. This compressor is called Arvox Stereo. Honestly, I'd use a glue compressor if you just want to stay Ableton native. The idea is just to glue together all the characteristics that you've given it. One last de-esser, the option to double one more time, little bit of utility, little bit of gain pushing, and mainly it's for that widening function. Catch some of the high end, make it a little bit wider, then I limit, then I hit it with a K-clip. That's how I get that nice, sharp, saturated sounding vocal. It's a lot of little things over the course of the entire 2 chains, but each of them adds up to both the characteristics of the sound and can be played with to be more of an expression of who you are as an artist.
When you see my face, did you freak out? I know I look spooky once you made up. Chasing all the feelings, I can't escape my brain, so I built something that don't feel safe.
Hope you enjoyed this video. All these techniques I use in just about every vocal production that I do for my own very human music. It's a lot of fun. Thank you. Have a good one.